In just 5 months, I made $37,500 by creating a podcast production package from scratch. Today, I'm going to share with you some of my exact steps, some of the gear I use, some of my clients' experiences, and how I almost realized I grew too fast for my own good. Back in 2024, I created a podcast production package because I knew I wanted more for myself. And I was really tired of being in the same spot. I was tired of being a traditional freelancer, and I wanted to make more money. And the only way I was going to do that by creating a different thing or a package that added more value to a customer. And these customers were someone that I knew that had the money, had a bigger budget, and typically were people that we all are looking for. And in this package, I figured podcast was the next thing. At the time, 2024, and now podcasts are real big. And everyone has a podcast. That's what I feel like. So I was like, hey, let me go ahead and jump in the market and throw a package out there that people will potentially see value in and want to buy. So I created a package. Now, this package wasn't an overnight, and I thought of it, woke up, and da-da-da-da. It actually took me a couple days, a couple weeks to actually think of it. It took me about 30 days to fully have it to where I could show it to someone. Or 2 weeks, I probably over-exaggerated 30 days, but 2 weeks to officially have the package set up where I was confident in selling it. And I posted it on my Instagram, started telling people about it, and created a sales team. When I say sales team, that means people that I told I can give a commission to by the time they sell a package or whatever. And I ran that with a couple people, and I just spread the word as much as I can to try to get as many people to help me sell the package, because that was the goal, sell the package. And as I sold the package, things were growing. I was seeing success. And in this package, it consisted of 4 podcast episodes and 20 reels. Now, with the 20 reels, shout out to Opus Clips for the help, because I didn't go through every podcast and find every clip to find the key moments. I use Opus Clips, and it helped me out. So shout out to Opus Clips for that. And overall, I didn't even edit myself at all. I put it in a budget where I could hire a team as well. $2,500 for 4 podcasts with 20 reels. I was able to hire a team to take all of the load off my back. All I had to worry about was bringing the proper equipment so I can fully focus on the production. In the equipment, it wasn't all about me having everything, even though I did, and I'm going to get into that next. But before I get into equipment, the way that I added equipment to my production was finding other people that had equipment as far as cameras and the basics, for them to bring it in so I could have an extra camera, because I always promised 2 to 3 cameras every time I created this package. 2 at minimum because I personally had 2, and then 3 was because, okay, I found someone that had the third, and, we leverage it. And I still do that to this day because, at the end of the day, I am going to still find the help. I'm always going to need help, so why not have someone that have a camera as well so they can be more involved in the production. But long story short, when it comes to equipment is very important. You don't have to have the best equipment in the world. And some of the equipment that I had 3 tripods. I had 2 that I was using for my cameras and 1 extra for the person that bought the camera. I don't know the exact brand names of most of the equipment that I'm going to tell you guys about, so I'm going to put a link in the description so you can get it and put it in your shopper cart and use it for your own shoots. So I had 3 tripods. I had a Blackmagic Mini Pro ISO. Please make sure you have one of those, because those are so clutch if you're using those for podcasts, because you want to be able to use all of the video files that come with the switcher. The only downfall, it do not shoot 4K. It shoots in 1080. But most of the time, you'll never know the difference. Just make sure you have proper lighting. And I guess we talk about lighting now. I had a 600D. Now, that was one of my best pieces of equipment at the time. 600D, I went ahead and got that because I knew I needed some lighting. And that one light, if you use it right, it can light up a whole room. With the bulb softbox that I'm going to put in the description as well. And then I also had an Amaran 200 that I was using. Those were my only 2 lights that I had. I had some LED lights that I use from time to time by Amaran as well. I'll also put all this in the description below. And a Rodecaster Pro 2. These were some of the most important things that I had, because these were the only things that I had at the time, and this is what I needed. And I knew if I had these certain pieces of equipment, I would be pretty good. I'd be all right. All I had to do was just make sure if I had help, they had the extra stuff that I needed, probably a extension cord, an extra camera, and that was pretty much it. I had everything else. With the HDMI cords, I do want to give some disclaimers about those. Watch out for those, because if you don't have the right HDMI cord, you will see some type of stuttering. Or glitching. I've been on shoots several times with those HDMI cords at the beginning where I didn't get a true understanding about HDMI cords, or I didn't know the right brand to get. But I will say, Cable Matters is a great material to use when it comes to HDMI cords. They're 8K cables, and I'll be honest, I'm just going to put the description below. I would just say go ahead and add it to your shopper cart. With the XLR cords, I don't remember the brand off the top of my head, but I will also put the XLR links in the description. But I will say this. If you don't get the proper XLR cords, you will get this weird hissing noise, and you will get a lot of feedback from different things. So XLR cords are very important as well, so I'll put that in the description. But overall, with the HDMI and the XLR cords, you don't need 150-foot XLR cords and HDMI cords. Don't make that mistake like I did, because you'll be sitting in a pile of cords that you don't really need. So go ahead and get a 50-foot or a 75-foot cord. That's perfectly fine. But you don't really need a 150 or a super long HDMI and XLR unless you know you're going to be on the other side of the room and you're going to be very far distance. But I got it just in case. I never knew. You could be like me as well and do that, but description below. So that's some of the equipment that I knew I needed and have to this day. I also have a upgraded version of my podcast setup. Everything is wireless. I have no long HDMI cords, and the only cords that I'm using are the XLR to my microphones. Oh, and last, I almost forgot. Rode Pod mic was the mic that I use. I didn't use Shure or anything like that. Those are also great brands. But like I said, I'm going to put all this below. So everything I didn't cover or speak on, I will have that in the description below. The next thing that came to my mind was, how was I going to keep these clients? And it took me some time to realize what the missing piece was. And it really wasn't a missing piece. It was just a formula of doing things. And I guess I give you my version of the formula, and you guys can create your own or use mine. And rule number 1, if you have a team come, make sure they're wearing all black. The reason why you want to wear all black, for one, you don't want no one coming looking like they just left from Indian everywhere. You want them to come looking like you was about to do this podcast production today. So go ahead and dress as such. This is not a fashion show. You don't need to make a fashion statement. At the end of the day, we're getting paid to be here, and we just have one job: produce high quality content through podcasts. And that was my goal overall, and that was my motto when it came to bringing people on and hiring a team. Make sure you have all black and make you also look like that you guys are a full team. So it's very important, especially if you care about, your aesthetic as a team. I think that's number 1. And then it was showing up on time. 2 hours early was typically the expectation. At least an hour early, nothing less than an hour. When it became 30 to 15 minutes beforehand, it was like, okay, we're kind of shorthand on the amount of time. We don't have that much time to set up this podcast production before all the guests get here, before the main host is ready to go, ready to do our mic testing, etc. So I would just say go ahead and get there an hour to 2 hours ahead of time. 2 is perfect. An hour is just on time. You should be pretty good with an hour. By the time you get to the end of your hour, you should be doing like mic checks and just making sure cords are out the way and bags out the way and etc. But 2 hours is you'll be sitting there for about 30 to 45 minutes just staring at the equipment, making sure everything goes good. Because let me tell you this. I know equipment is number 1 on this, honestly, because you're going to spend most of your time on the setup with podcasts. You're not going to be necessarily doing much. I mean, there's nothing you got to do. You don't have to worry about B-roll. You don't have to worry about A-roll. And that was another thing when it came to doing podcast production. I knew I didn't want to do nothing that was super creative. So that's why I was like, okay, podcast production was where I wanted to be. So with all those experiences, I realized most of this stuff was super easy. So all I had to do was just make sure everything was in line. So those are the things that will also boost your client's experience with you already being set up when they get there. Y'all looking the same, looking all black, because you also are a reflection of the host. Because when a host bring in guests, you want the guests to essentially be like, wow, that's a nice production team, or y'all look good, y'all look professional, this, that, and the third. Think outside the box. It's not all about you. But overall, those are some of the things I had in my mind. There are many lessons that you'll learn while doing podcast production packaging or doing podcast production overall. Everyone have their own experience with this. But for me, equipment was the biggest kind of downfall because most of the stuff may go down. Most stuff may randomly not work. Because I prioritize the setup and make sure the flow of it is cool. As far as the lighting, make sure everything charged, no battery's gonna die, everything's good. We got our own power source. We don't have to worry about hitting a breaker or nothing with all the power that we're using. You know, I try to make sure all of that's lined up, and also the set. The set was always important for me. Make sure things are moved. I always said, don't be afraid to move things out of your set to make your podcast production look great. Sometimes you may have to move most of the stuff on the room to the outside of the room and just keep a few things on this side of the room and rearrange the room to your own liking for the host to like it as well to make the podcast look better. And then at the end, move everything back. You know, those are the biggest pains with setting up and breaking down and cleaning up. That's the thing that keep you there the longest. But outside of that, the work is very minimal. So you don't really have to do much. Just make sure the setup is perfect. Make sure everything's working throughout. And at the end, just make sure you clean up and break down properly. Overall, if you guys are someone that's interested in doing podcast production, or if you're a freelancer that want a little bit more push and you need to know what the next step is, my advice to you will be to simply create a package for yourself. It don't have to be podcasts. It don't have to be selling multiple videos. Be creative, think outside the box, and figure out what package works for you. It could be one big video, two big videos, or you could do one shoot a month for a certain amount, you know, and just keep them on retainer. That way you can keep the money going and you can find your own success stories within media production. So, guys, if you like everything that I said in this video, go ahead and subscribe, like, share to a friend. Do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, if you're a videographer and you need a little bit more push, or if you're in any business, go ahead and create a package that can shift your whole perspective, because that's overall what it did for me. It didn't shift my life, my business. It shifted my perspective on how I see things and how I can work around different difficult situations in the world. So see you soon, and see you on the next one.